Yesterday at approximately 3:30, 3:45, our warden was contacted by a family member advising that two individuals had in fact escaped from our jail from custody, and that they had went to a relative's house in the middle of the night trying to find a place to stay. At that time, jail admin, along with myself, CID, narcotics, responded to the jail where we started conducting an investigation to determine what had taken place and who was missing. And upon that investigation, we determined there was a total of 4 that had escaped custody. And we started our investigation into how they were able to escape, and if anyone assisted or facilitated them into leaving the area. And we've just been running those leads down, going back and just reviewing, telephone calls, reviewing cameras, different things like that to try to get an idea of exactly who went at what time and the route, how they made it out of the correctional facility. During that investigation today, we have apprehended 2 of the suspects, 2 of the escapees down in Hammond at the intersection of Old Baton Rouge Highway and Pumpkin Center Road. We'd received a phone call that these 2 individuals, or 2 individuals meeting their description, were in the area. At that time, Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's deputies, along with Hammond Police and K-9, responded to the area and set up a wide perimeter. We were able to take a drone in to get a close-up. We were able to locate them as Tangipahoa Parish Sheriff's Office deputies and police officers moved in on them. They hid in a dumpster there next to a store at that intersection, and they were apprehended. Those 2 are back in custody. However, we're still looking for the other 2. We feel that they're no longer in Tangipahoa Parish, but like I said, it's still an ongoing investigation. Anyone that assisted, helped them in any way leave the area will be charged. Any other inmate in our facility that assisted them with their escape will also be charged.
Did all 4 inmates escape at one time?
No, we believe two left out Saturday afternoon, and the other 2 was determined. When we responded, then we were able to realize the other 2 had gone. We were able to take and review some security video from the 911 office, which is located next door, that shows the route of escape.
When did the second duo escape?
We think they escaped yesterday. Well, we got one of them on video yesterday afternoon, just before the warden got the phone call that we had escapees. We got video of one exiting the yard.
Okay, so I just want to be super clear here. There was an initial escape yesterday afternoon. You were tipped off, and then subsequently.
Well, the first escape happened Saturday. It happened Saturday. Apparently, they made their way. They hid, and then after dark, they went out under a wall, and then they were able to scale 2 fences and get away. And yesterday we had the same thing happen before we were able to get to the jail, pinpoint their avenue of escape, and get everything shut down.
What level of concern does it raise with you that it required a member of the public to reach out to the sheriff's office about an escape and your own jail personnel didn't even know?
It's very concerning. If the proper head counts had been conducted, we would have knew about it immediately. And it goes back to the supervision of inmates. There were several issues that facilitated this escape. One was lack of correctional supervision, supervising the inmates when they were on the yard. Second, the wire on the yard is weakened through corrosion, and they were able to break some wire open on a chain link and was able to create a small gap. Once they got through that gap, they were able to go down this wall, and then at the end of the wall, there's another gap that's about 8 inches. You wouldn't think 8 inches is a lot, but a 150-pound human being can get under it. They were able to slide under that. They waited till after dark to do that, and then they were able to go over the one razor wire fence and then go over the second razor wire fence. Ultimately, the responsibility falls upon, the sheriff's office for not, we're short-staffed, and, it's no excuse, we're short-staffed, and we just, the experience and the training and such a big turnover to jail, and it's a failure. We had a failure within that we hope to correct, learn by our mistakes, and move forward. Also, we have, like I said, we had a defect in a security barrier. We had another gap that should have been corrected, and then we need more razor wire. If there was their area for the final fence they were able to get over is lacking the amount of razor wire it should have. We have started the process of getting that corrected immediately, and if I have to go up there this afternoon or tomorrow and start stringing razor wire, I will be happy to do so to ensure that we don't have this situation again.
Is the sheriff instituting any discipline for the corrections officers?
We're still looking into it and investigating, and sometimes it's kind of hard to get in and start disciplining someone that hasn't been properly trained and doesn't have the experience. And it's just, not making any excuses, but being transparent as to how this escape, happened. And it's just like I said, it was between not properly watching, counting, and structural issues, they were able to facilitate their escape.
You talked about the wall, and then you talked about the eroded fence, and you obviously mentioned razor wire just now. Does
Right.
the sheriff have plans to repair those weak links in the system here?
Yeah, we're constantly repairing wire and things like that every day up to jail. We're going to fix that, but it wasn't just, if the wall wouldn't have had the gap in it, you wouldn't have had to get over the wall or under the wall. If the fence wouldn't have had the corrosion where they were able to take and physically break the wire and work it loose, you wouldn't have been able to get to the wall to go under it. So there were several, and then once you got under the wall, there was an interior fence that with razor wire that they were able to go over. And then the exterior fence, it has razor wire, but it needs several more rows of razor wire to get it where it needs to be. And like I said, that will be corrected in the next day or so.
Can you tell us which two, because I think you all released the names,
The
ones that are still at large?
ones that's at large is Cyprian and Hookfin.
Okay.
Were they at all armed, the two that you guys found in the dumpster, and is there any reason to believe that the two still at large are armed and dangerous?
Any escapee can be considered dangerous and possibly could arm, but no, the two that was arrested earlier, without incident, they gave up. They were not armed.
You talked about separate escapes. Do you know specifically which inmates escaped first and which inmates escaped later?
The first inmates would have been the two that's in custody now. Would have been Guidry and Johnson.
And they escaped on that Saturday?
They escaped Saturday. And, going back through and all, apparently the other inmates were aware that they escaped in Howe. And so the first one. But to go back and look at, you have to be a 150-pound person or smaller to be able to get through that 8-inch gap. A normal size, a large individual or large male or whatever is not going to be able to slide under there. You have to be pretty thin to be able to get under that wall.
So to be clear, everybody used the same route?
Correct.
Did Cyprian and Hookfin escape at the same time, or did one go first and then the other?
That's still all under investigation, exactly, which one At what time?
We've all spoken with neighbors who have said that escapes relatively frequent. You know, they live right across the way, they get the notification. I guess what would you need, or what would the sheriff's office need to harden down fencing or the infrastructure, or what do you need to, I guess, keep this from happening again?
We just need to constantly monitor our security barriers and making sure that they're staying, you know, maintenance is done, any kind of corrective action is taken, extra razor wire, just such things as that. And then, you know, our correctional officers being alert, paying attention, you know, being on top of things. I think sometimes in our jobs we become complacent until something like this happens. And in law enforcement, there's no time for complacency, because it's ever, you know, it's ever changing. And you know, one little thing that you think it's a routine, it turns out it's no longer routine, and bad things happen.
And were they wearing uniform or in cuffs when you guys found them?
I don't have that information as far as what they were wearing at the time.
That initial call you received about two individuals had escaped, they went to a relative's house overnight. Who did that call come from? Was it a relative?
It was
One of
concerned citizen. It was someone
Okay.
that was aware of what was going on.
Okay, and then, I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but one neighbor I spoke with said it seems like the escapes happen on the weekends. And obviously, I mean, even in our business, we have a limited amount of staff on the weekend.
Right.
So I just wanted to offer that information.
Right. Well, and it's like with any type of business or whatever, during the week, your staff is double to sometimes triple, because you have court personnel there at the jail, you have pretrial, you have your clerks, your admin, and all those people there at the jail, transport officers and such as that. So, you know, during Monday through Friday, you know, during the operating hours, the same way with this substation. You know, you here today on a holiday and it's only one or two in this building. But Monday through Fridays, at any given time, there's 20 to 30 people in here working.
So to be clear, was the number of correctional officers, the people responsible for keeping them in the jail, was that number reduced over the weekend as compared to Monday through Friday?
Well, you have two different types. You have what you call your shift employees that are assigned to your pods and stuff. And then you have your other employees that come in and do investigations, pre-class, transport officers. So you didn't have all those extra people there. You just had what you call your basic correctional
The number
shift.
of people who keep eyes on the fence to make sure that this doesn't happen, was that number reduced in your view?
No, that number's not reduced, because, I mean, it's pretty much set up where, you know, you're locked down in the facility, and then you have these outer perimeter fences. And, you know, we have cameras, we have, you know, sensors, different things like that to let us know. And at one time, we had dogs out in that area. So if somebody did make their way out there, then they had to deal with the canine.
So you say you have cameras and sensors, did that not work in this situation?
At that time, the sensors were not, and I'm not sure, like I said, this is all still under investigation.
Okay, so they were or they weren't?
No, we didn't get any alerts that they were out in the yard.
Do you believe Johnson and Guidry had help getting from the jail to the dumpster?
I think, looking at, you know, where they were initially in the jail and where they went, I think they basically fled on foot. Now, because where they initially, they were to jail, and then they escaped, and approximately 6 hours later, they were at an area 15 miles away from the jail. Well, I mean, you can walk that easily, you know, in 5 hours. You can walk 15 miles. And then the same way with where they were at Saturday night versus where they were caught this morning. You know, it's still something that, you know, if you're escaped, I mean, you can walk that. We're still investigating, and of course, if someone did facilitate you know, them getting where they were going, yeah, they will be charged also.
And what are you guys doing to find the other two today?
We have our narcotics division and our detective division is out. Said, you know, they working intel, interviewing people, you know, just our regular investigative, you know, fugitive apprehension. You know, we're doing it. We're trying to locate them. We don't feel like, we think that possibly they're no longer in the parish. We will say that. But as just far as pinpointing the exact location and take them into custody, it may take a little bit more time.
Chief, for anybody who assists these escapees, will they be charged with a felony?
I'd have to go back and look at the statute to see in what way that they assisted. You know, it'd be a principle, well, if you initially took them away, it'd be principle to escape. And then, you know, depends on to what degree or how they help them as to, you know, what we're going to be able to charge them with, and we're going to charge them with the most we can.